Welcome to the Vintage Times, a program for older persons. On our program today, we will talk about memory loss and dementia such as Alzheimer's disease. As we age, many of us worry about memory loss. We worry when we forget someone's name. We worry when we can't find our keys. We worry when we enter a room and forget why we came there. And we wonder, could this be a sign of a serious problem such as dementia? Well, it may not. And today we will learn about dementia and the signs of diseases such as Alzheimer's disease, and what to do if you know someone who has dementia. With me is Aisling Dalton Kelly, who is owner of the Aisling Companion Home Care Agency. And thank you, Aisling, for joining us today.
Thank you, Hannah, for having me here today.
You're very
welcome.
welcome. And can you please describe your profession and how it relates to memory loss?
I founded a home care company called Aisling Companion Home Care, and we take care of a lot of people that stay home that have cognitive issues, usually some form of dementia, and we help them on a daily basis to get through their day.
Yeah, right. And you have wonderful programs that help caregivers as well as people who have memory loss.
Yes.
It's really very encouraging. Can you tell us the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's disease?
Okay, so a lot of people don't understand that there is an actual fact, a difference. So Alzheimer's is a form of dementia. So if you think of dementia as an umbrella term, and underneath that, Alzheimer's would be the very most prevalent form of dementia. And then below that, you might have Lewy bodies dementia, perhaps frontal temporal dementia, vascular dementia, many different types of dementia. However, Alzheimer's is a form of dementia.
And it's the most common form.
Yes, carries about 65% of the diagnosis.
Okay, that's important to know. Dementia doesn't necessarily mean Alzheimer's.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Does our memory change as we age?
It does, because everything changes, Hannah, as we get older. Everything gets smaller and we start to shrink a little bit, and so too does our brains and our memories. Yes.
Yeah. What are some elements that affect our memory?
Well, like you had mentioned a few minutes ago, we start to forget things.
Yes.
You know, little things like the keys. That's not such a bad thing to forget. Happens sometimes. People's names. Where there's a memory problem is when you forget bigger things that actually can prevent you from living a normal life. Like, for example, eating. You can't live without eating.
You can forget to eat.
Yes, you can, and drink for that matter. And the human body can't survive without food, nor can it survive without liquid.
Yeah.
And with this disease, sadly, people do forget their own names. They do forget where their keys are. They forget maybe the way home. They forget their children, sadly, sometimes too.
Yeah, so there is a difference between a temporary forgetfulness and a permanent.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they say if you can trace your steps, if you've lost your keys and you can trace your steps back as to where you were before you couldn't find them, then you don't have a problem. The problem is when you lose something on a consistent basis and there's a pattern and you can't find your steps back.
Yeah.
Then that's usually a red flag.
Yeah, right. I've heard somewhere if you lose your keys, it may not mean Alzheimer's.
Right.
If you forget what the keys are used for.
Yes, yes.
So it's a
well, that's exactly a fantastic example, just what you said there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what are some of the symptoms of dementia, such as Alzheimer's disease?
Well, again, back to what families notice first is the forgetting. The little things that mom used to do all the time. Maybe she doesn't cook as often as she used to, or maybe she goes to prepare a meal but doesn't have the ingredients and isn't able to put those ingredients together, isn't able to formulate maybe a shopping list. So they're things that would be noticeable. Obviously, forgetting how to get around the neighborhood, forgetting who your neighbors are. They're all classic signs. A big telltale sign is a weight loss, because that would usually indicate that they're forgetting to eat. A lack of interest in socialization, a lack of awareness of the time of year, or if it's hot or if it's cold, and more especially that they've kind of given up on their own hygiene. You notice changes, that maybe they aren't as particular as they once used to be.
Right. So these are all telltale signs. What should I do if I notice these signs?
Well, the people with dementia don't usually notice that, Hannah. It's usually the family members or the relatives or the neighbours. And family members sometimes will see these things and think, well, mom's just getting old, or, she's not as fully active as she used to be, and they're inclined to make excuses all the time. However, when you see these on a repetitive basis and you see that their daily life is being affected, then you really can't deny it anymore. And then, yes, somebody has to take control of the situation and say, okay, what are we going to do here? And a doctor's visit would be number one on my list, to tell him what you have witnessed over a certain amount of time. And that's the first step.
And the doctor is likely to tell you what?
Well, it depends on the doctor, because as we get older, like we just said, our memories, aren't as sharp as they used to be. We're not as quick off the mark as we used to be. So it's very important that the doctor hears what you've told him. It's very important that you give him accurate information. A once off here and a once off there doesn't mean you have dementia. So that data that you're gathering, that you've been watching, is very important. And the doctor would probably diagnose you with memory loss due to your age, maybe depression, could actually recognize that there is a problem with some sort of dementia and can maybe prescribe something to help you get through the day or to encourage your speech to be a little bit better. But different doctors diagnose different diseases, and actually a geriatrician would really be the right person to go to, because they deal with elderly people all the time, and they very specifically deal with lots of forms of dementia.
And they have something called geriatric assessment, right? Where they will assess my condition.
Lots of different tests that they can do, Hannah, to actually see if there's a cognitive problem going on, other than what they're seeing and what their family are telling, specific tests that they can put you through.
Yeah, so a geriatric assessment is important. Do older people sometimes mask or hide their symptoms? They notice a deterioration, but they are so worried that they mask it.
Yes, I personally do believe that. And if you think about that yourself, if you did something silly or something that was embarrassing, what is the first thing that you would say? Oh my gosh, that was so embarrassing. I made a fool out of myself. Well, people that have a form of memory loss or dementia, they know what's going on. They're aware that there's something that's not right. They might not be able to say what it is or verbalize what they're experiencing, but they can sense something is wrong. And yes, they can mask it because they are so frightened.
Right.
So frightened. The fear of the unknown.
What Fear of unknown. What else?
And who's going to take care of me?
Yeah.
How are we going to fix this?
Yes.
Can it be fixed?
Can it be fixed?
I live alone, my family's away. I don't want to be a burden to my family.
Right.
I don't want to be a burden to my family. So yes, a lot of people can hide it and can hide it very well, which comes back to the families that say, no, it's not dementia of any description. She's just making little mistakes because she's correcting herself sometimes too.
So family members have to recognize the reality, and they have to be able to communicate with their...
Super important.
Yeah. What is a good way to communicate?
Well, the biggest thing is empathy. We have to have empathy, because if you recognize that there's a problem and you've been watching it for a while, then probably there is a problem. You're not going to come to me and say, Aisling, I think you're losing your mind. You're not going to say that, because it's very hurtful. Yeah. It's very hard for the person to recognize what you're saying. However, if you love that person, and most people that take care of their parents do love them, they will address the issue, and you have to be honest and say, you know what, Mom, you know, there's things here that aren't 100%, and I want you to go to the doctor, and we'll go with you and we'll see what's going on. That's how you need to approach it, and also let the person know that they're never going to be alone. I think as human beings, our biggest fear is, are we going to be alone? Who's going to be here with us? You know, the isolation as you get old is very challenging. So to be honest and to be empathetic is a big factor of addressing the problem at hand.
You sort of have to enter that person's lives.
Yes.
Understand what they're experiencing. How do you do that? Do they give you signs for you to understand them better?
Well, the way I look at this is that nobody can change the trajectory of the disease. There is no cure, sadly, for dementia. It is a fatal disease. So, you know, what you have to do is you have to look at, Hannah, what have we got to deal with today? What can we deal with today with Mum or Dad? Focus on what you're left with, not with what's gone. And if you can address the emotions, because everybody at the end of the day, whether they have cancer or whether they're a diabetic or whether they have some form of dementia, they're still human beings. Yes. And they still have feelings no matter what. The disease doesn't take those feelings away. So you have to communicate through those feelings. So if you see that Mom is upset and she's angry today, well, guess what? That's what you need to focus on. What's led Mom to being angry, and how can I diffuse this situation by figuring out why she's upset? And saying to her, Mom, you're upset. Yes. Tell me why you're upset.
Okay. Very important. And if she doesn't know other signs, you look for other signs.
So you have to go back. Yeah. You'll have to go back. If I came into this room today and you were mad, because I'm cognitively fine, I would say, well, somebody upset Hannah before she walked in here, or something happened that triggered her behavior. So instead of me hitting you head on with, why are you mad? I would say, are you having a bad day, or how was your morning? How did the day start out? In family situations, if the parents are at home or if the children are in the house, they have to go back and trace the steps to see what triggered this behavior. Why is Mom like this now?
And you use something called validation, right?
Yes.
You validate their feelings. You don't negate them, right?
No. So again, if you are mad, I'm not going to make you feel guilty and I say, Hannah, why are you mad at me?
Right.
Why are you throwing things around the place? What I might say is, Hannah, I think are you having a bad day? Tell me what's going on. Do you have pain? Is there pain anywhere?
Right.
Are you having a bad day because of pain? Or a simple thing to ask is, are you hungry?
Yeah.
When did you last eat, Hannah?
Right.
Can we have lunch together? Let's go out. Try and get away from the situation why they're displaying that anger.
Yeah.
But also finding out what caused it.
Yes.
What caused it. So
being a detective. You want to find the cause.
Yes.
It's really up to you to try and figure out. There is a language.
Yes.
A body language.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you try to figure out, you try to change the situation, take a walk.
Redirect. Try to redirect, yeah. The thing with the biggest key for anybody with dementia is that you're always trying to think ahead. You got to have a plan. And you always got to be able to diffuse a situation that currently is escalating or has escalated, and now you're going to try and defuse it.
Right.
And that means that you have to be a fantastic visionary, and you also have to be able to go back and see what caused it and hopefully have that not happen again.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's hard for the caregiver
Yes.
too, and you actually give classes to help caregivers how to communicate with their
We
parent.
do, because we can't send in a caregiver. It's like sending somebody away to war and not giving them the right tools for the battle.
Right.
We can't just send in a person to a house and say, this lady has dementia, take care of her. We would be setting the caregivers up to fail.
Right.
We usually have to know what sort of dementia, is there a diagnosis, where he or she is at in that process, and the personality of this person is so important. We have to know the little details. In other words, who was Hannah? What did
Yes.
Hannah like?
Right.
What did she stand for? Who was she married to? What was her favorite music? What did she like to do?
Yeah.
Getting to know Hannah, because the
Right.
disease isn't going to change who Hannah was.
No, that's right. So you go back and
Yes.
you try to respect the patient,
Yes.
the person, I
Yes.
should say,
Yes.
for who they are, who they were, work with the abilities they still have.
And work with what they like. So back to if you were having a bad day, and you were angry, I could maybe know that your favorite body lotion is cocoa butter, and that smell really, does something for you. So I could come in and say, Hannah, I brought in your favorite
How
cream today.
beautiful.
Are you having a bad day? Have you got pain? Let's do a little hand massage. I brought your favorite
How
cream.
beautiful.
So, again, being the detective and having those tools at hand, maybe Hannah might like to go for a walk. She hasn't been out for a walk for a long
Right.
time. And that might have been something that was very important to her in her daily life before she had this disease.
So how important is stimulation for the person to be stimulated with something they can do?
Well, it's really important, Hannah, to stimulate somebody. However, as we look at this disease, some people sadly are overstimulated, and that's why they can't sleep at nighttime. Some people think that sundowning is a myth. They think people sundown because they're overtired.
What is sundown?
Sundowning is at a specific